Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Exceptional Stories and the People Who Live Them. This is a faith-based, in-depth conversation-style podcast with and for parents of special needs children. Each episode will feature parents of special needs kids who are making a difference. Every day, these superstar parents tackle the ups and downs of life. This podcast will let you have a front row seat to hear how they do it, why they do it, and what you can learn from their experiences as they share their exceptional stories. Let's get started. We interrupt this podcast to bring you this special news bulletin. Did you know that for as little as $3 a month, you can be an active supporter of this podcast? Go to the show's website at www.exceptionalstoriespodcast.com and click the support button on the home screen. That website again is www.exceptionalstoriespodcast.com. Click the support button on the home screen and enter your support today. We will now join the podcast already in progress. Hey, I have some very special friends with me today that I want you to meet. My guests are Greg and Donna Journey. They are from Dobson, North Carolina. They have a son named Ben, and we'll find out more about him here in just a few minutes. The Journeys have a traveling gospel music ministry that keeps them busy most of the time. I first met these great folks a few years ago at a gospel music convention, and I was blown away by their story. Not only do they travel and sing, but they host a radio program on a nationally syndicated internet radio station. And they're here today to share their story with you. Guys, how are you doing? Welcome to the podcast. I'm so glad you're here.
Doing good.
Doing great.
All right. First off the bat, we've got to cover this before we get into anything any deeper. Tell the folks where Dobson, North Carolina is and what you're close to. We're going to go ahead and get that off the table, get it out of the way so we can concentrate on the important stuff, okay?
Oh.
We are in the suburbs of Mayberry.
The outskirts of Mayberry.
Yep. Boundary, Andy Griffin's hometown. So that's our biggest claim to fame.
There you go.
We're about 15 minutes from his childhood home.
Yeah. My wife and I went up there last year, before Christmas in the Smokies and spent some time up in that area. Had no idea we were that close to you guys. I knew y'all were up there, but I didn't know how close.
Yeah.
So, next time we get up there, we'll have to get together and break bread and get caught up.
Yes, we are the official tour guys of Mayberry.
Well, now that I've got it in, I'll definitely have to come back and do that.
That's right.
Let's get to your story. Briefly tell the listeners your story. Just kind of hit the high points with Ben and his diagnosis and kind of how you do life, and then we'll dive into some questions from there.
Well, Ben was born in 1994. Greg and I got married in 1991. Mm-hmm. And when he was born, he was fine. He actually got a 9.5 on his APGAR test, which is the test they give them when they're infants, when they're first born, to see how they're responding, that kind of thing. He was perfect. So excited because I'm an insulin dependent diabetic, and it was a miracle that we could get him here to begin with.
Wow. And, okay.
About at age 1, I started noticing that Ben had started talking a little bit, saying mama, daddy, that kind of thing. Yeah. And then it just stopped. And he started, when I would read to him, he would push my face away. He wouldn't look at us when we called his name. He wouldn't look at us. Mm-hmm. And we were worried. I was especially worried. I'm a teacher. I taught for 30 years and taught kindergarten. So I knew something just wasn't quite right.
You knew when something changes that drastic that something's going on.
Right. And I knew some signs of autism, but the main thing that I remembered studying in college was somebody sitting in a corner rocking, not having anything to do with anybody. I knew he had a few of those signs, but I kept thinking it's his hearing. You think everything. And make a long story short, he was diagnosed when he was 2.5 with moderate to severe autism.
Okay. All right. 2.5. So there was about a year there where you had some unanswered questions and had some fears and and really didn't know what was going on until you got that confirmation, I would imagine.
Right. And we had to go through hearing test and brainwave test, just all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then we finally got that diagnosis about a year later.
Okay. And Ben's how old now?
He is 28, going on 29.
28, and he is a hoss too.
He is. He's a big boy. He likes to eat.
It didn't stunt his growth, that's for sure.
No, it didn't.
No, Ben is a blessing, and to see what God has been able to do through what a lot of folks would call, for lack of a better word, a death sentence, to be able to use him like he's using him now. But let's go back to those early days when you first got that diagnosis. What was your reaction to it when it was confirmed? And Greg, you can pitch in on this a little bit too. But where were y'all at when you finally got the confirmation that yes, Ben is autistic? We
were in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, at the I can't think of the name of the Amos Cottage, and we were seeing a Dr. Kleinpeter, and he sat there and talked to us, and Ben was with us, and about 20 minutes he said, "Let's go in my office and talk about it." And I said, "Well, what are you talking about?" I didn't even see him do anything. Uh-huh. And we went into his office, and he told us every move that he had made in 20 minutes. And he looked us straight in the eye and said, he has autism. And that I was sort of like Donna. I had seen one thing growing up about autism, and
right.
We didn't know anything. And it was a blow to us. You was talking about death sentence. I felt like I always wanted him to play sports and do.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah, every dad wants that. That's typical.
And it was gone.
Right.
And for what they said, and then, but once we decided to focus on him, it wasn't about us anymore. It's about Ben, and to see what we could do to help him, and whatever he ended up doing, we were going to be proud of it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, did you, y'all were living in Dobson at that time, I take it, in that area?
Yes, we were here. Yeah.
Already there. Okay. What, were you able to get some early intervention type stuff with him, or how did that work?
Well, at that time, the diagnosis for autism was 1 in 1,000. Today it stands at 1 in 36, I think.
Yeah. I saw that.
There was not a lot of places that you could go. Mm-hmm. We went to a place called Teach in Greensboro. They sent us there, but they told us it's going to be a 1.5 year wait.
Wow.
Well, and I done everything that I needed to do and researched, and we waited our time. And then they said, well, it's going to be another 6 months. I said, no, it's not. You told me a 1.5 years.
Don't make mama mad.
We want an appointment like yesterday.
Right. Yeah.
So once I got behind it, you have to fight for these kids.
You do.
Because they will put you off. They will not do what they say. And they found out real quick that this was one mama they wasn't going to put off. I'd already waited my 1.5 years, and
sure,
there you go.
Well, and now with so many kids being diagnosed with that, I'm sure the system is just flooded.
Oh yeah.
And where maybe back years ago it was maybe the caretakers or the caregivers just didn't want to do anything. Now they're probably doing all they can. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
The amount of the numbers. I was doing some research because several of the families that I've got lined up have autistic children. And, when I started making a list of people I wanted to interview, it was amazing how many parents of autistic children I knew. It blew me away. I had no idea that I had contact with that many parents that are going through the same thing. Now, I know autistic kids are different. There's different levels. It affects differently. There's a lot of commonalities there, but there's a lot of differences too. And That's what I want to do on this program, is put the light on those differences, to know, so that folks that are listening can know that autism is not a death sentence. It's a challenge. It makes life tough for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a way to get through it. And you're right. Don't get between mama and her baby. Don't do that.
No, don't.
That will not end pretty.
And I'll wait my turn, but when my turn's over, I'm done.
Yeah, exactly. I'm married to one of those, so I can speak from experience on that.
Well, and one thing, Steve, you can always count on, there's no two autistic children alike. They don't fit into that mold. Mm-hmm. They may have some things that are the same. But we went up took Ben, had the opportunity to take him when he was 5 years old, up to Baltimore, Maryland, to the University of Maryland up there for we had to take him every 6 weeks for 2 years, year and a half. We ran into 200 other parents during that time. Wow. None of those kids were the same. Every one of them different.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey, Exceptional Stories family. We've got something very exciting to share. We want to put the spotlight on you. If you're a special needs parent or caregiver, we want to hear your questions for an upcoming Q&A episode. Send in your questions via email to exceptionalstoriespodcast@gmail.com or leave us a 90-second voice message at speakpipe.com/exceptionalstoriespodcast. We're diving deep into the most common pain points faced by special needs parents, and your input will shape this crucial conversation. I can't wait to hear from you. Let's make this Q&A episode truly exceptional. And were you like us? Did you find you might have found yourself down in the dumps or having a pity party, feeling bad, and you weren't there probably a day, and then you found somebody that's really, really struggling a whole lot worse than you are?
Man, yes. And you know what? I said the Lord works through mysterious ways, but in order to get to that lab, we had to go directly through the cancer ward for children. And boy, if that don't humble you.
Oh, yeah.
You've got it bad, but look at these parents. We'd go by a room, and then the next time we'd go, that they were gone, and we pretty much knew what had happened. So you always got something to be thankful for.
Yeah. What are some things you've learned along the way that help you in your daily taking care of Ben? I'm sure that for a long time now you've had a routine. He probably does well on a routine. What's a typical day like, and what are some things you've learned as far as being there for him and taking care of him?
Don't mess up his schedule.
Don't mess up his schedule.
Oh man, I got my hand in the air. That's right.
That is the thing, though. You have to be consistent. Everything, he has to eat breakfast at a certain time. He has to take a shower at a certain time. And if you don't, you got it to pay for. I mean, but as we were saying a while ago, Ben's big, so you don't get him too mad. I was laughing at Donna. I said, he can whip me. I just ain't told him yet.
Yeah, don't let him know that.
No, and but the funny thing is, Steve, when we go sing, that's off schedule for him, but he don't care because he's doing something.
It's the music. He's getting to be in the music. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he'll go for 5, 6, 7 days and not even have his computer. He'll have his phone, but no computer. You would think that would drive an autistic child crazy, but it don't Ben. Wow. And I'm so thankful.
Yeah. That's good. Now, Greg, you mentioned he likes to eat at the same time every day. Does he like to eat the same thing, or does he? Oh, yes. It's got to be the same thing every day.
Every morning for breakfast, it's a bacon and cheese biscuit. I mean, and
well, now you're talking. That's good stuff.
Yeah, and it's so funny.
I knew I liked him for some reason.
Now lunch is a little bit different, but it's got to be at the same time.
Yeah.
And, and supper, it's the same thing. But it's so funny. Each restaurant, if we take him to a restaurant, he eats something different at each restaurant. He's got one thing that he'll eat at that restaurant, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he might eat a bacon and cheese sandwich at one restaurant, but the next one he goes, it might be chicken. So it's just sort of funny.
Okay.
But
well, I was going to ask you how, with your travel schedule, how do you keep consistency in his schedule?
Well,
or do you?
Well, we pretty much do. I mean, and I'm going to tell you, that's why when we're singing with y'all, like at these conventions, Ben always has usually either an early spot, never past 8:00, because Ben Journey's going to bed at 9. That's the only thing. I mean,
my boy, 9 o'clock's a good bedtime.
Yeah.
But gospel singers don't always get that.
Yeah. Well, Ben does. And when we're booked to sing on Saturday nights, I better have my phone with me with my Grand Ole Opry app on it, because he's going to be listening to the Grand Ole Opry on Saturday night. That is his thing.
Okay. Well, good deal. I've interviewed a couple of autistic parents of autistic kids already. And one thing that I learned is that, especially if you're traveling or if you're getting out of that schedule, you have to prepare ahead of time and be ready. In case that switch does flip, in case something goes awry, you have got to prepare almost down to the exact minute of what you're going to do. Or do y'all find that to be true with Ben as well?
Yes, he most of the time when he's up singing and playing, he's fine. One time he had a little bit of a meltdown because, and this is funny, we went to a church that decided to have preaching first, preaching first, and the singing was going to be later on. He did not like that. Uh-oh. He had a huge meltdown. And
he didn't care for that preaching, did he?
It was just out of order for him. He loves to hear preachers preach, but it was not
a big change for him. Yeah. It wasn't in the right order, and he knew it, and it should be changed. And I understand.
And he kept wondering why we hadn't sung yet, Yeah, but
exactly.
It was funny, and he finally calmed down. But it was rough going there for a little while, and I just got up and told him, I said, "Welcome to our world." It is what it is. But y'all got a perfect picture of what autism looks like. It's not always him getting up here playing those instruments and amazing y'all. Sometimes it's tough like this at home.
It is.
They get to see the icing on the cake most of the time. They don't see what it took to get him there.
Exactly. Well, this is a good spot for us to take a quick break. When we come back, I want you to kind of talk a little bit about Ben and his music and what he does and how it contributes to your family ministry. So we'll be back here in just a few seconds. I do hope you're enjoying this week's episode of Exceptional Stories and the People Who Lived Them. If you would like to support our podcast to help it improve and be heard around the world, we have created a way that you can do just that. Go to the podcast website at exceptionalstoriespodcast.com and click the support button on the homepage. For as little as $3 per month, you can help keep the podcast available. There will be no pressure, and you can stop anytime you choose. So go to the show website now at exceptionalstoriespodcast.com and click the support button now to help. And now, let's get back to the show. All right, we are back with the Journeys, Donna and Greg Journey, and we're talking about their son, Ben. Ben was diagnosed with autism in his early years, about 2 or 3 years old. He's in his late 20s now, and he is enjoying life for sure. Before we went to the break, Donna, you were mentioning a little bit about Ben and his music. Tell me how Ben got involved with music, and was there a particular moment where it seemed like a switch flipped for him? And just kind of take us down that road of Ben and his music.
Well, he's always been around music, and of course, with my family, But I noticed from a very early age, he would pick up those little plastic guitars with the plastic strings. He would want that. He would want the guitars, like the toy ones that the babies have. He was always interested in it. But around age 8 or 9, he started really picking up. We got him a child-sized guitar. And we've always fostered that want of things, as much as we could. Yeah. He got a child-sized guitar and he played around on that for a while. But then a friend of ours got him a CD that had different stages or different lessons. It had like 20 some different lessons on the guitar. And he'd get his guitar, he'd go in his bedroom and he'd go through, and I would notice, what he was doing. He would get one lesson and then he'd move on to the next, all the way through the 20 some lessons. By the end of that, he was playing. He had a hard time with the timing because they never went over that. So Barry Scott used to sing with Doyle Lawson and Quicksilver, came back home off the road and he was singing with a group around here. And I called him. I said, Barry, would you consider just helping him with his timing, rotating the strings and getting it to make sense? He said, I sure will. So he helped him with that. They came to sing at our church. And Barry said, do you care if Ben gets up and plays farther along with us on Sunday morning? Well, I would love for him to do that. And I said, well, sure, if you think he can do it. He said, oh, I know he can do it. So he got up that Sunday, and when they were up there, of course, me and Greg were sitting back there crying. I was bawling my eyes out.
Oh,
and
sure, yeah.
Something just spoke to me and said, if he can do that with them, Donna, he can do that with you. Now, I had given up several years back. Our ministry, we were singing with Heaven Sent. I give it up because I felt like I needed to be with him. And I worked in the church choir, the children's choir, vacation Bible school, did all that. But I just kept feeling there's something I need to do, but I don't know what it is. Well, that Sunday, I knew exactly what it was. And that's how the journeys got started.
Wow. And how long have y'all been traveling as a family?
Let's see.
Since 2012.
Yeah.
Okay. Going on 11 years then? 11?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we didn't know he could play piano. I showed him 3 chords, and he's playing chords now that I don't even know what they are. So there you go.
And I have noticed that if you take a little bit long on the intro of a song, telling the folks about the song, he will start playing without you.
Oh, yeah. He'll say, hush, it's time to start.
Yeah, he'll get over and he'll start hitting on that piano, and that's Mama, it's time to sing. Let's quit talking. Yeah. Let's sing.
Time for Barry to shut up and let him play.
Yeah. Well, let me.
I do want to, if you don't mind, there's something I'd like to share with the people that we try to share wherever we go. In February of 2018, February the 4th, we were in Maryville, Tennessee, and we were singing at Oakland Baptist Church. And I'll try to hurry up. And we were, as soon as you got there that morning, you felt something was going to happen. Something good was going to happen.
Yeah.
And they were singing a congregational song, I Must Tell Jesus. And Ben stood up, and we both started to tell him to sit down. But I'll say something, but it was the Lord said, no, leave him alone. And he stood there for almost 4 minutes and didn't move. And if you know anything about autistic kids, that's unbelievable.
They're going to move, yeah.
He didn't move. And then all of a sudden, he raised both hands straight up to the sky, and the tears started rolling down his cheeks. Well, we knew what happened, but being his parents, we couldn't, they wouldn't believe us. But we got home, and on Thursday morning, I was getting him ready for the day, and he looked me straight in the eye, and he said, Jesus Christ, my Savior. So, people think that special needs kids can't get saved, but that's not true. If God made you, he sure can save you.
And we don't know what they understand. If many of them cannot communicate. Our youngest one had a genetic disorder, and he was nonverbal. So he couldn't tell you if he was hot, cold, hungry, wet, sick, whatever. but he had his own way of communicating that you knew what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And Ben used his way of communicating to let you know that something had happened in him as well. I want to ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
I ask this to all my parents. What is the most difficult part of raising a child with autism?
I think to me is knowing, like you said, what they understand and what they don't understand. That, and being able to stay in it 24 hours a day and hold your temper and hold, just be patient with them. Because you can tell when he don't understand something. He has that puzzled look. And then you can also tell when he's doing something he don't supposed to be doing, because when you come in the room, he runs the other way. So there you go.
Busted.
So that's the hardest part, I think. I don't know about Greg, but I think that's the hardest part.
Okay. Greg, what would you say? Anything to add to that?
I think that is the hardest part, but Ben is bad to repeat himself over and over. Even if you're saying yes to something, he still asks you 200 times. And so after a while, that drains on your nerves. And, just that. And, but I thought autism was bad, but he could be a lot worse, and we don't have to worry about some things that other parents have to worry about. We don't have to worry about him getting on drugs. We don't have to worry about him getting out and doing stuff. So, it's bad, but we're blessed.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's the parents that think that way, that have progressed to that way of thinking. I think they do better. There are tough days. I mean, there's days you wouldn't do it. There's no way under heaven you would do it, but there's some days you want to just throw in the towel and say, I'm done. But you can't do that, and you wouldn't do that. But there's probably some parents listening right now that are probably in that spot and saying, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Well, by yourself, you can't. And y'all's story is a prime example of you couldn't do it by yourself. You wouldn't want to do it by yourself, but you've got your faith to lean on, and your ministry keeps putting you in front of people that need to hear that story. What do you think is the biggest misconception about autism?
To me, I think it's a lot of times people will say something about Ben, and Ben's standing right there, and I just want to look at them and say, he understands everything you say. That is, to me, is the biggest thing, that people don't understand, that even though they can't communicate, they are highly intelligent.
Yeah.
I mean, to be able to, can you pick up an instrument and play it when you've never had a lesson? They're smart in their own way, and people don't realize that. They don't see that.
They are. Yeah. Well, here is the one question as we start to land this thing here. Here's one question that I'm going to ask everybody. And so here goes your turn at it, okay? What is one question you wished I had asked, but I didn't?
Let's see.
I may put the Jeopardy theme song in the background while you're thinking on this when I go in and edit.
You may have to. I guess to me it would be how, like what you said, you were talking about handling all that. I can remember back when all this happened, I had come to the end of my rope, and I just threw up my hands and I said, Lord, I don't know how you're going to handle this, but I know you can. My question to them was, how can you live without the Lord in your life? I couldn't handle day to day what we have to handle if I didn't have him to lean on.
Exactly. Yeah. Greg, anything to add to that?
No, there's one thing that I did ask, but it took a while, and I think it's okay to ask why. Why are we having to go through this? Okay. And
we've got about 8 minutes here. Go into that for a couple of minutes and just tell me your thinking process on that.
I got to the point where I said, why me? And then it was, why not me? Why not us? And then it just opened, God need, those kids need somebody. I mean, those kids, and am I any different than anybody else? Am I any better than anybody else have to go through this? We all go through different things in life. Your situation may not be the same as mine.
Right.
And the biggest thing I have got out of the whole thing with Ben is I don't look in somebody else's house and say, why are you doing something? Because until you live there, you don't know what you do. And you have to handle things the way you handle things at your house. And, you do it the way that you feel like the Lord's leading you to do. And that's what we're doing.
I agree with that 100%. How would folks be able to get a hold of you to find out more about your ministry, find out more about Ben's story? We didn't even touch on the fact that he is an artist. He paints and does stuff like that too. So how would folks find you there in the suburbs of Mayberry? How would they get a hold of you?
Well, most everybody is on Facebook. So go to the Journeys page. Don't go to the Journeys. They're on there, but that's not me. Somebody took over our account. The Journeys page is us.
And it's JOURNEY.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. The Journeys page. Also, you can message me on Facebook, just Donna Journey. Donna Bledsoe Journey was taken over by somebody else, but it's Donna Journey.
Okay.
Also, Ben has a page, and it's called Through Ben's Eyes, and it's on Facebook. It highlights his paintings.
Okay.
I always post stuff on there about the ministry, where we're going to be, that kind of thing.
Okay.
We also have a website. It's www.thejourneysgospel.org.
Okay.
Yeah. And
.org. Okay.
Yeah, and you can see us every Monday, Wednesday nights on New Journey Radio, live on YouTube, and also now Monday mornings and Friday mornings, Mayberry with Donna.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mayberry with Donna. I love that. Well, thank you both so much for being on. And I heard Ben in the background, and so I gave him a little wave when I heard him. But I've had a couple of parents get worried about they come into it making apologies. Well, you may hear so and so in the background. I said, well, I hope I do. That just kind of adds to it a little bit. So thank y'all so much for taking time and coming on. And I know that folks are going to be blessed by hearing about your journey and Ben's story. And just not giving up. I mean, you can't give up. You got to keep going.
Well, and Steve, if they want to message me, I would love to talk to parents that need some help. I don't know how much help I'll be, but I sure can pray with you and lead you in the right direction.
Well, one thing we found when we were going through ours with our youngest son, he passed away in 2015, but networking with other parents is huge.
Yes.
You never know what little nuggets you can drop into another parent's life just by telling them what you do every day. And there's strength in numbers. And our son had a very rare genetic disorder, so we didn't know any other parents that had that particular set of circumstances. But we connected with a lot of parents, and they gave us strength, and hopefully we gave them strength along the way. So. If you're listening to this and you want to know more about their story, or you want to just talk with them, you need somebody to listen to you talk. These folks will do it. I promise you that. I'll have all of the contact information in the show notes. So thank y'all so much. I appreciate you coming on. And I don't know when we'll see y'all again, but it won't be soon enough.
I know. Well, if y'all are going to be at NQC, we'll be there on Thursday.
Well, we'll be
Thursday
there Thursday.
Friday.
We'll be there Thursday, so I'll run into y'all then for sure.
Yeah. All
right. Well, y'all take care. Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay.
All righty, Steve. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Before we go, I want to thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. If you are the parent of a special needs child and wish to share your story with us, or if you know someone we should talk with on the show, please send an email to exceptionalstoriespodcast@gmail.com. If you've been enjoying our show, we would love to hear your feedback. If you could, take a minute, leave us a 5-star rating on your preferred podcast platform. It would really mean the world to us if you did. Your rating helps us reach more listeners and continue bringing you quality content. I also want to invite you to follow us on our social media pages. You can find us on both Facebook and on Instagram at Exceptional Stories Podcast. Lastly, if you found this podcast informative and would like to keep it going, go to our webpage at www.exceptionalstoriespodcast.com and click on the support button on our homepage. For as little as $3 a month, you can play an active role in making sure these stories are heard. Thank you for choosing to spend your precious time with us today. Remember, you're not alone. Together, we will create a world that will embrace and support every exceptional story. Until next week, be blessed.